The reasons why I started using was because of peer pressure. I got a job as a clerk, which I also lost because of the same. Then there was an incident where I got very sick and I was hospitalized. And I stayed at the hospital for almost 6 months. I went through 2 major operations on my stomach. After the first operation, I used to walk with part of my intestines out of my body. I had the alcoholic liver disease. At some point, I also used to diarrhea blood. I had gastritis, drinking on an empty stomach, and vomiting if I ate something without having drunk something. And then the mental ailment, that was what was most troubling for me. And my parents were very happy when I got sober. So my name is Paul Ndungu, but mostly people call me Paul Ndungu. I am in recovery for the last 20 years. This coming November 15th, I will be celebrating my 20th year in recovery. I had been in addiction for 18 years, and I started way back in high school. The reasons why I started using was because of peer pressure. I didn't know how to make good decisions at the time. I grew up in a family where we had very strong parents who were used to making decisions for us. And then when I went to high school, I was given a stick of tobacco. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't know how to say no because I didn't want to be seen like I was chickening, like mommy's boy. So I smoked it. It didn't feel good. I swore never to do it again, but because of fear about what my friends would say, I smoked it until at such a time when I was able to smoke it in a way that I became comfortable with it, that even the smoke was coming out of the nostrils, and because it used to look cool at the time. At the time, we also used to go to factual films because we never had TV at the time, and we used to see adverts on people riding on horses advertising sportsmen, and they used to look cool. So with time, I wanted to also look like those people. And then with time, I was introduced to cannabis. Again, I knew it was wrong, but I found myself doing it. And then with time, I was introduced to alcohol. And because I was a student, we didn't have much money. It used to be changa. At the school where I was, we used to have outings and every weekend. And when we would go for shopping during the weekend, sometimes we would pass by the drug den, and for me, I was very comfortable. I used to hold a lot of liquor as well as cannabis. We became very good friends, and I continued that way. After high school, I didn't do very well at the time because my goals had shifted from study. After school, I got a job as an untrained teacher in high school, and I continued, and now this time it got worse because I had the money. So every end of the month I have some money, and sometimes I would even drink on credit. And some of the time in the drug den, I would meet with my students, and sometimes we are smoking weed together and drinking alcohol. It continued that way until I lost that job because of the same. Yeah, so just to talk about how alcohol, cannabis, and tobacco ruined my life, I have mentioned earlier how I've been losing jobs, and now the worst part of my addiction was 2002 to 2005, where I lost 2 businesses that were functional before. And then within those 3 years, I was doing nothing other than just drinking. I lost almost everything and almost my life and my sanity. And these 3 years were marked by mental ailment. I was hallucinating. I was seeing people who other people cannot see. I was seeing things. I was feeling things all the time. If I didn't drink, crawling on my skin. There was also a time I went to the police station and I said there are people who are following me and they want to kill me. And the policeman at the OB was asking where are they? He knew me. And I would tell him, you can't see them, these ones. Can't you see they are dashing each time they see the headlights? But the policeman noted that I was not well. So we stayed with him at the OB until daylight. And then during the day, it wasn't so scary at the time. And what was happening at the time, I come now to that realization. I was having what is called delusions of persecutions. I totally believed that there were forces out there that were out to get me. In terms of health effects, I had the alcoholic liver disease. I did mention about the jaundice. And then at some point, I also used to diarrhea blood. I had gastritis, drinking on an empty stomach, and vomiting if I ate something without having drunk something. And then the mental ailment, that was what was most troubling for me. In terms of the other social effects, I've mentioned about the family disintegration, the loss of connection with my family of origin, and loss of jobs and income, and just being there, the hopelessness, the helplessness, the resignation, and eventually the suicidal ideations, and actually not just ideations but a decision which was just here waiting for execution if it was not for the call that I made and the discussion that we had with my sister. So at the depth of the misery, at some point I felt suicidal. I felt my life has come to an end. And then I remembered my sister who we were very close with when we were growing up, and I said, before I decide to execute suicide, let me talk to my sister. So I called my sister. We never used to have phones at the time. I went to a telephone booth and I called her. And we talked at length, and she asked me to wait for her the following morning. On hindsight, I reflected, and I would say, as we were getting to this doctor's office, one of my brothers was ahead, and then my father, and then my brother, and then my sister stood at the door. And then we sat down, and then my sister said, he is a sick person. And that caught me off guard. It was all very confusing at the time. And that was how eventually I found myself in a treatment center. It was never my will to go to the treatment center, but I later made a decision and said, it is okay, I can be here. I began to do reflections. I began to look at my life and where I lost track, and I realized that I was sick than I had initially thought. And then I cooperated with the program. I stopped demanding to be discharged, and I stayed on up to the 90th day. We were not just being housed, we were being given a lot of education on alcoholism, on drug addiction, the risk factors for addiction, what causes addiction, and what we can do to be able to protect ourselves after the discharge so that we do not experience recurrences of use, or basically what is called relapse. And in treatment, I remember our trainer said that you've got to disengage from all the addictive lifestyle, the people you used to drink with. You must stop going to those places where people are doing drugs, because if you do, it's just a matter of time before you get triggered to go back. And having looked at my life and where I was headed in addiction, for me, I made a very strong resolve that never in my life will I ever use any drugs or abuse. One of the key challenges is going back home to a people who do not understand addiction. They could be family members, they may mean well, but some of the things that they say to people sometimes can be quite discouraging. Let me tell you something. That addiction helps people to unsee the damage that they have caused in their lives because of their behavior. And each time they look at how they have messed up their life, they want to escape again. And there is no better way to escape than to be high again. But sometimes family members believe that if they make you feel bad about the things that you used to do, then you may never go back. But some of it has been very detrimental. It can trigger people to go back. So that's one of the challenges that I personally faced. People who mean well, but again, they are reminding me about my addiction and how far I would be if it was not for my addiction. Of course, there are feelings of guilt and shame, the regrets when I compare myself with other people. My younger siblings are doing well. My friends, the people that we used to be with in school, were also doing very well. I wouldn't feel good. But when I have people who are trying to remind me all the time, both family and friends, there are times I would find myself absenting myself when we would have family meetings, because I was trying to avoid that. Then the issues of stigma. We know drug addiction has been looked at as bad behavior. It is immoral. It is a sin, especially people in the church. And people never seemingly being able to forgive people for the things that they did. People who are still looking at one with the same perceptions, the same eye that they would look at me when I was doing drugs, and people who have not come to fully acknowledge that now I am different and therefore I need not to be reminded about those things. That's one of the key challenges. Again, grounding, looking for my way out. It's like you are in a wilderness and you are looking at where is east and where is west. You can't see any key markers to give you directions. I didn't have an income, so I'm also struggling. Where do I start? That's another key. It's another key issue. Where do I begin? And then, of course, lack of trust. You have changed, but still people are very skeptical. They are doubtful. You find people still not believing, and some of it can be manifest in how they hold on to their valuables when they are there, because we have a perception that persons with drug use disorders are thieves, even if they are not. So, and then some of the time people trying to treat you with fragility, as though you are something like an egg that you can fall down and crack. They are too polite to be real, and you find there is no that connection is not there. And again, trying to make amends to people, but again, people who are not ready for you. Sometimes you feel lonely, especially loneliness is one of the key issues. I'm not supposed to be with people who do drugs, but again, the people who don't do drugs are looking at me differently. And therefore, I find myself all alone. But again, when you're looking at the joys and the freedoms of recovery, they are many. For one, I have never experienced a hangover ever since I stopped. That's almost 20 years ago. I wake up, I go to bed with a clear conscience. I haven't hurt anyone, I have not abused anyone like I would at the time. I don't have to go looking behind my shoulders to see if there's someone watching me doing something funny, because I've learned to live an honest life. I can talk to people when I need to have clarity, when I'm in dire straits, but I am not here to be swayed by circumstances like I would at the time. At least I am able to have, even if not much money, at least to have some money in my pocket. I'm able to live in the same house with money. Unlike before, if I had money, all money had to be spent out there. For now, I can live harmoniously with money. I have no craving for whatever drug, whether it is tobacco, whether it's cannabis or even alcohol. I absolutely feel nothing for whatsoever. And my relationships are good, they are working. I'm not fighting anyone or anything. I'm very peaceful. So those are some of the things I can say I'm very happy for. I've been able to realize the meaning of my life. My life has purpose. Each day I go to bed, I know I have schedules on what I need to do tomorrow, unlike before when I would wake up and I don't know what and where to go. So the joys are many. I'm able to see the progress that I've made so far in the 20 years. There are times I sit down and I say, if I had done this right from the time that I left high school, maybe I would have been very far. When I was in high school, my goal at the time was to become a lawyer. And then when I started smoking weed at the time, the goals changed, and my country of destination at the time was Jamaica. I was dreaming of how to go to Jamaica, and I forgot about everything else. Okay? So I'm very happy today that at least I'm able to look at the progress that I've made. I'm having relationship with people. I've managed to interact with people from all walks of life. I have managed to visit places that I never dreamt of. And the strides I've made is something that I never bargained for. I never thought that I would manage to come this far, especially in terms of personal satisfaction. Treatment entails helping people to learn to function in all ways without the application of anything from outside to cure what is ailing on the inside. That people are being empowered on how to learn to withstand all the pressures that are coming from the environment. And not just the environment, but also those who are coming from within. How to learn to manage your stress, how to learn to manage your other emotions like anger, like disappointments, like frustrations, excitement, because sometimes excitement can also make people drink alcohol and use other drugs. So it is to learn on how to deal with all emotions, emotional regulations, stress management skills and techniques. We also train people on that, and how to manage whatever emotions, because sometimes drug use is an attempt to deal with those difficult emotions. And we always tell people, if you don't learn to manage your emotions will manage you. So basically, for me, I've gone through the trainings on how to manage my emotions, whether it is anger, whether it is stress, or whatever other difficult emotion. I don't have to drink, and I want to believe with training, anybody can manage to do that. That you don't have to, the way people give excuses, I'm drinking because of the stress that I'm getting from my workplace, or even from home, or from the exam, like students are very good at this. But all those, I would say, are excuses. We like looking for excuses as to why we are not able to do some certain things, or why we are doing some certain things. We believe that drugs are a solution until they become the problem themselves. So therefore, drug use, for me to deal with issues, is never an alternative. So it is to train people on how to learn to manage whatever issues that they have. Because if people would be drinking genuinely because of the issues, then everybody is supposed to be a drunk. Everybody has problems, everybody. There's no one person who can say, I don't have stress. It is to know how to manage those stresses. And therefore, what we are lacking is the skills and the techniques to manage those emotions that destabilize us. And that's what personally I've been trained on. I'm also a trainer in the same. And I believe that once you do that, then you help people to stay sober. If you may want to get to me, my contacts are 0720-884-024. Because I know there are many people out there who may not know that there is something like rehabilitation, that there is help out there, that there are people who are trained to be able to do interventions for such people. So feel free to reach me. And again, NACADA has a toll-free line. It is 1192. If you are all on Safaricom, it is totally free. And of course, on the other side, there's going to be a counselor who will be able to assist on what needs to be done. I would say whoever is out there and suffering, always have hope as your most trusted companion. Hope has been walking with me. It has never disappointed me. Never give up on yourself, because if you do, nobody can be able to help you in this whole wide world. You need to be able to believe that recovery is possible. I at one time felt my life has come to an end because I was at the depth of my addiction. But I have managed to stay sober all this duration of time. And all I can say is to all the people who are out there suffering, there is hope. You don't have to continue suffering in your addiction. You need to be able to reach out for hope and for help. We are there. Look for people who can be able to help you. I've managed, and I did manage to get out of addiction. And I believe anybody can, because there is nothing special that I have. There is nothing special that these other people who have managed to get out of addiction have. We have blood and bones just like anybody else. And my belief is that anybody can get out of addiction, even those who have had multiple relapses, because I've seen people with multiple relapses get well. People who families never believed in, but they have managed. So indeed, it is possible. But you must be able to make that first step. Acknowledgement that addiction is a problem in your life, and therefore stretch your hand out and say, I need help. And we will come and see what we can do to assist you to get out of that pit of misery. I know how it feels like. It is very, very painful. Sometimes the society thinks that we like doing drugs, but not so. And I believe there is a way out. Anybody can get out. Don't lose hope. And I also believe that I've also worked very hard to be where I am, but that is not to say I've not been assisted by people. I do acknowledge there are so many people who have played a role to help me to be who I am. But I also believe mimi ni shujaa. I've managed to walk this journey up to where I am today. Kwa hivyo mimi ni shujaa. Even as we celebrate the Mashujaa Day, I'm one of those mashujaas. Thank you very much.